Hey Mena Warriors, welcome back to my channel. Today I am talking about tracking or not to track. So if you're perimenopausal or menopausal and you're finding that the belly fat is creeping up, that is one of the most common symptoms. It's certainly one of the things that happened to me. It might be that you're doing everything that you think you need to be doing, and the thought of weighing your food and counting calories is just like, ugh. To be quite honest, I think I'd rather poke my eyes out with a blunt fork. If you do not want to weigh your food and get absolutely bogged down in the nutritional maze, minefield, however you want to refer to it as, then I have a few tips for you today that are really going to help support your hormones, improve your gut health, give you continued energy, focus on body recomposition. So I hope your strength training. If you're not, please start, because it's really good for you. And also to help put some fun back into food. So if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Kate Hartley. I share a weekly video with you every Monday around something related to menopause. Right now, I'm in the process of putting together my menopause nutrition and symptom blueprint. It is quite a large document, and I'm going to share one of my pages with you today because it's not actually ready yet. I'm still proofing it, but I have got one of the pages which is going to give you a good breakdown of how feeding your body for optimal gut health, menopause hormone balance, and to reach and maintain a healthy weight is going to get you there. Because most of us struggle with that belly fat problem. It's largely a cortisol issue. As your estrogen levels fall, your cortisol levels do tend to rise because the adrenal glands do the backup job of the ovaries when the ovaries go into retirement. And when cortisol rises, then so does our insulin. One of the ways to really manage your belly fat loss is by probably eating more than you are doing so right now, and also prioritizing protein and also a wide range of fruits and vegetables. The carnivore diet, it just sucks because it kills your gut health. We need a wide range of healthy fats, lean proteins, vegetables, fruits, and some starchy carbs. I refer to them as starchy carbs because vegetables and fruit are also carbs and also contain fiber. The more starchy carbs are things like your butternut squash, your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, parsnips, your pumpkins. Those are what are called starchy carbs. Those have more of an effect on your blood sugars. And so as the day goes on, we need fewer of those. I'll just break down the plate proportions that you want to be aiming for throughout the course of the day now. So you can see here, this is the fuel up method. If I just enlarge it slightly more, it'll make it easier for you to spot it. So for instance, with breakfast, we are looking at around about 50% protein, 50% starchy carbs. Starchy carbs also include things like your whole grain bread, your oats, your fruits, etc. And if you have vegetables for your breakfast as well, then those are seen as an extra bonus. But because we have starchy carbs for energy, that's what you want to be sort of having more of at breakfast time, because it's going to give you steady energy release. And of course, if we're perimenopausal, menopausal, protein is such a key factor for us. So every meal, you want to be making sure you're eating between, I would say, 30 to 40 grams of protein. For your lunch, you're looking at around 25% of your plate being protein, 25% starchy carbs, and 50% veggies. You don't need so many starchy carbs at lunch because, again, you need some to get you through the afternoon. But by the time the evening meal comes and your plate there is 75% vegetables, 25% protein, you do not need those starchy carbs unless you're a shift worker, in which case you would reverse this because you're going to be needing more starchy carbs at the end of the day if you're going to go on to night shift, because you're going to need those for your sustained energy. If you need a snack, ideally your snack ought to be between your lunch and your dinner, and you're looking at around about, start with your veggies. If you can get away with maybe some celery sticks and sliced up bell peppers and dip it into maybe some hummus, that's great. And if you're really hungry still, maybe have some home cooked popcorn or a rice cake, as a starchy carb, or a round of whole grain toast. And that's going to keep you going until your dinner. But to be quite honest, when you're eating in the right proportions, you are going to be well satiated, you'll feel great, your energy levels will be high, your menopause symptoms are going to be balanced. And part of this blueprint also is so that you can actually track how you feel after you've eaten, because we all respond differently to different foods and different drinks. So when you're able to track how those foods and drinks are making you feel, then you know what supports your goals and what doesn't support your goals. And it's not about being dogmatic either. So going back to calorie counting and weighing your food, that might suit you, and if it works for you, that's brilliant. If you're anything like me, it just bores you silly. But we do need to have an understanding of the right proportions so that we're not overdoing it. One of the things I see the vast majority of women doing wrong, who are coming to me specifically for weight loss help and advice, they are eating far too many of the starchy carbs at the end of the day. And in this case, I'm referring to the rices, the pastas, the potatoes often, and I always refer to the spaghetti bolognese. So forgive me if you've heard this already, but most of us have a huge bowl of spaghetti and we only have a small amount of mincemeat on top. And you've probably not got many vegetables in your mince either. Ideally, replace your spaghetti with courgettes or zoodles, so spiralized courgettes or spiralized zucchini, depending where you are in the world. You can eat way more courgettes or zucchini in comparison to spaghetti as far as the impact that it has on your blood sugars. And it's really that you need to be focusing on. It's not necessarily calories versus calories, it's how the calories that you're eating are actually creating the chemical reactions in your body. And that's what you really need to be mindful of. The same thing happens with rice. Of course, brown rice is going to have a better response for you than white rice, but you can eat 10 cups of cauliflower rice for the equivalent of the same calories as 1 cup of normal rice. If you like eating larger portions, if you like having that really satiated feeling, but you want to get rid of that belly fat, but maintain lean muscle mass, which is so important as we go through the menopause, then focus on replacing some of those starchy carbs with your vegetable alternatives. And other things like spaghetti squash, they're a bit more tricky to get here in the UK. They're much more available over in the States, but some of our farmers shops, farmers markets, that you can pick up spaghetti squashes there. And if you can, literally, you just bake them and then you sort of mash them up with a fork and it creates these tiny little spaghettis. But get creative. When I first started to make this transition, I love my potatoes and I love mashed potato. I love all sorts of potatoes, but sometimes I'd really love mashed potato. And instead of mash nowadays, I mash up some sprouts with some cauliflower and some broccoli. And I don't actually notice that it's not mashed potato anymore. And in fact, it's more flavoursome than mashed potato. It's more filling. It doesn't spike my blood sugars like mashed potato would do. I'm getting a much wider range of nutrition, also because it contains cruciferous vegetables. Those are really good to help get rid of some of that excess estrogen that you've probably got in your body. Brussels sprouts are also pretty high in protein as far as vegetables go. And when we're looking at eating enough protein, which is so important as we go through the menopause, then you want to be looking at sort of multiple ways to get your protein. So it doesn't just have to be a slab of meat. It can be meat, it can be plant-based sources of protein, but it can be other vegetables that contain relatively good sources of protein too, like edamame. Is that edamame? Edamame. I can never say it. Edamame beans, your lentils, your various legumes, your Brussels sprouts, quinoa. So look at other ways of getting more protein in. I always suggest to sort of look at your plate almost like a Buddha bowl. So you've got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you might have some, chickpeas, you might have some quinoa, you might have a little bit of salmon broken up, then you might have lots of vegetables, and then you might sort of have a really healthy but delicious dressing on top. Use lots of herbs and spices, maybe with half an avocado. But meals like that are just so flavoursome. And you can eat so much and still safely manage your blood sugar levels. It really is your blood sugar that you're thinking of. And also, when we're talking about weight loss in menopause, think more about body recomposition. So it's not about weighing less. It's about getting rid of excess fat and replacing that with lean muscle, because lean muscle helps you burn more calories. It boosts your metabolism. You need to have lean muscle in order to have strong bones, in order to keep your muscle mass. Your muscle mass atrophies because the adrenal glands support the job of the ovaries when the ovaries go into retirement. That cortisol has a breaking down effect on the body, which is why you're at more increased risk of brittle bone disease, why it's much harder to maintain the muscle mass that once you had. Also, why you really do need to be open to changing things up. So reduce the cardio that you're doing and increase the strength training if you're not already doing that, and make sure that you've got maybe a couple of sessions of high intensity interval training as well for optimal results. You need to be doing just really short bursts of high intensity stuff and then let your heart rate come down just until it's come down again, and then you want to bring it back up again. But that's why I suggest follow a proper program, or indeed get a trainer at the gym so that you know what you're doing, so that you're not overworking certain body parts, that you've got a good balance, and that you're doing the high intensity interval training combined with the right amount of strength training for where you are at right now. A lot of women say they're not hungry first thing in the morning, and to be honest, nor am I. But it's really important for your blood sugars and your cortisol levels that you're eating pretty soon after you wake up. And the reason for that is because we have a natural spike of cortisol, which is designed to help us get up, get out of bed, get on with our day. When that cortisol spikes, which is normally around about sort of half an hour after you've got up, we need to be eating protein in order for our bodies to function properly. If we're not doing that, then the cortisol is staying within your system. And really and that has a contributory effect to your belly fat. So I know you might say, but I'm intermittent fasting. If intermittent fasting is working for you and you're still not getting the belly fat, I say stick with it. However, there's a lot of evidence pointing to how inefficient intermittent fasting is for menopausal women. I used to intermittent fast. It suits me perfectly because I don't like eating first thing. I'm quite happy to eat my first meal at around 11 o'clock. But nowadays, I have to force myself to have a morning breakfast that is rich in protein. And I see it as my pre-workout meal. So I have my pre-workout meal, and then do my workout, and then I have a post-workout meal that's also quite high in protein. I also have a muscle recovery drink that's got the branched chain amino acids that I need to have, and then I make sure my lunch is high in protein. Sometimes I'll have some nuts in the afternoon if I'm feeling a little bit peckish, or maybe an apple, and then my evening meal is always protein and lots of vegetables. When you follow that routine, you will find the belly fat will go. You're not counting calories, you're not weighing your food, you're not having to add things into a tracker app. And most importantly, you're getting the results that you want. I do not subscribe to the completely dogmatic regime of never touching alcohol if you like your wine or your whiskey or whatever it might be. I do highly advise you to reduce or cut out your refined sugars, cut out your processed foods, because it's not just the sugar and the salt in them, it's all the chemicals that's in them as well. Everything you eat and drink sends a chemical message into your body. Now, for me, I love a glass of red wine in the evening. I normally have 1.5 to 2 glasses of red wine every evening. For me, it suits me fine. I stay a healthy weight and I'm quite happy on that. I don't get a hangover. I don't drink to get drunk. I just love a glass of red wine. I normally have one sort of around 5 o'clock, and then I might have my and I will just sip that gradually, along with probably another glass of water, and it might even be alongside a mug of tea. It's just the way I am. After I've had my glass and a half or 2 glasses, that's it. I actually don't want any more, but I really enjoy a glass of red wine. So if you're somebody who really enjoys their red wine as well, or their white wine, or whatever it might be, enjoy it. If you're able to get the results that you want and to maintain those results, I think food and drink has to be enjoyable too. And yes, there are the camp that will say, but surely you should be able to enjoy food and drink without having to drink alcohol. That's absolutely true too. I love it when I go teetotal. My halo shines so brightly, but I also really enjoy the flavour of red wine. If that is not negatively impacting your everyday health, if it's not contributing to long-term weight gain, and you get a lot of pleasure out of it, and everything else you're doing is pretty on the point, I say do it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm 54. I don't take any medications. I have all my own teeth. I've never had a filling. My bone health is really good. My muscle density is really, really good. I'm postmenopausal by many, many, many years. I went through the perimenopause early. I've never had HRT. All I do is follow a healthy lifestyle. I strength train probably 5 times on average a week. That includes a couple of sessions of very short bursts of high intensity interval training. I do follow programs. I focus on eating as much protein as I can do and fall short of that on quite a lot of days. I reduce the amount of starchy carbs I'm eating throughout the course of the day, and I drink plenty of water. I try and get a decent amount of sleep. That is more difficult because the last year has just been horrendous and I had a lot of stress. Incidentally, if you're under a huge amount of stress, you do need to have a few more carbs, starchy carbs. So it's about finding what works best for your body, which is why that sheet that I shared with you, that will soon be available, by the way, that allows you to see that what you're eating and drinking has either a positive or a negative or a neutral impact on your menopause symptoms. Because then once you know what works for you and what doesn't, then you can make a decision about, do you want to have it anymore or don't you want to have it anymore? I think you need to track for a couple of weeks, because data, it's just data. It's showing you what foods work for you and what foods don't work for you so well. I know for me, courgettes, weight comes off me. If I eat courgettes, there's something in those that is really effective for me shedding excess fat. I know if I eat pasta or rice, it bloats me up, but it does have a negative impact on the fluff that I get around the middle. And I'm not a great pasta fan anyway, so I actually don't eat a lot of pasta. And I've weaned myself off rice, and I tend to just have the vegetables with protein at the end of the day nowadays. Healthy fats are really important for you. All of your sex hormones come from cholesterol. That is the precursor for all of your sex hormones. So never, ever go low fat. If you want to go low anything, go low sugar or cut sugar out completely. Understand also that things like the contraceptive pill, some medications, obviously antibiotics, they have a negative impact on your gut health. And your gut health is an absolutely crucial part of how you experience your menopause. So if you can think about feeding your gut when you're eating food and drink, then you will serve yourself really, really well. Our gut microbiome is known as our second brain. About 70 to 80% of our immune system is around the gut. 90 to 95% of your serotonin, one of your happy hormones, gets created in the gut. And when you start to focus on your gut health, maybe incorporate fermented foods, because a lot of the food we get these days, even if you eat healthy, by the time it's got to your plate with long transportation times, plus the food is actually grown in soil that's pretty depleted as well. That's where fermented foods can play a really important role. So things like your kombucha drink, I have that every single day, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut, raw cheeses, brie, camembert, gouda. There are some, if you get a good quality cheese, that's healthy bacteria. Get your live yogurts which have no added sugars to them. That is live bacteria. If you can bake your own bread, bake the sourdough rather than other varieties, because again, that's a longer fermented bread and it's making its own natural yeast. You can grow your own vegetables, even better. But just be mindful that the food that you're buying from the shops is not as healthy as it used to be. And I mean, for me, I buy a lot of frozen vegetables. I buy a lot of frozen fruit because I honestly believe it's got more nutritional value in it than it has when it's so-called fresh from the shops. I'd love to hear from you. What is your biggest nutritional struggle? Is it understanding what works for you and what doesn't work for you? Is it getting out of that habit of wanting the starchier carbs at the end of the day, like the rice, like the pasta, like the potatoes? Because I felt exactly the same way when I first learned about the importance of feeding our gut bacteria, but also understanding the implications of the chemical messages that food and drink is sending to our bodies. So I'd be really interested if you want to drop it in the comments to hear what your experience is. If you want to make sure that you don't miss future episodes, subscribe to the channel. And if you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and I will look forward to chatting with you again next week.